We know that slavery was very much present on Clemson's campus, but the slaves that lived and worked on Calhoun's Fort Hill plantation have been left practically voiceless in Clemson's history. Historians have no written records of the slaves. The only account that Clemson has of the slaves who worked on Fort Hill is from a New York reporter who came to interview Calhoun. The reporter spoke very highly of the slaves in their living quarters, stating, "The Calhoun slaves lived approximately 1/8 of a mile from the mansion. The houses are built of stone and joined together like barracks with gardens attached, and a large open space in front." Due to the little knowledge about the slaves at Clemson, they tend to get lost in history. Therefore, many do not realize that the land upon which Clemson stands was maintained by slaves. The history of Clemson is important, and much of it is being ignored through some of Clemson's websites. Clemson has covered up much of its past about slavery through the use of two Clemson-affiliated websites, one of them being the Clemson Fort Hill History website. Throughout the entire page, the writer mainly discusses the former owners who lived on the plantation and the roles that they played. They tell readers that John C. Calhoun and his wife Floride lived there, followed by Thomas Green Clemson and his wife Anna Maria. The website completely omitted the stories of over 100 slaves who lived and worked at Fort Hill. The only reference to the slaves on the entire page is a link at the bottom that takes readers to a different Clemson-affiliated website titled African American Experience at Fort Hill. That also fails to discuss much of Clemson's uncomfortable past. The opening statement on the website is, "African Americans were a vital force in the operation and economy of Fort Hill, the home of John C. and Floride Calhoun from 1825 to 1850, Andrew Pickens and Mark Green Calhoun from 1851 to 1871, and Thomas Green and Anna Clemson from 1872 to 1888. While this represents that the Clemson community does acknowledge a crucial role the slaves played in the creation of the university, much of their past is not available due to the lack of documentation. The majority of the website discusses the positives that the New York reporter wrote about. Only one negative is discussed, and that is the fact that Calhoun's slaves feared him due to his reputation of whipping his slaves up to 30 times and throwing them in jail. Calhoun is one of many figures in the Clemson community who owned and tortured numerous slaves. Another prominent figure, Benjamin Tillman, the governor of South Carolina and U.S. Senator, also owned and tortured slaves. These two men either have prestigious organizations or buildings on Clemson's campus that are named after them. Clemson has participated in the glorification of John C. Calhoun. Calhoun is one of the most notorious supporters of slavery and a famous racist. Calhoun has been honored all throughout South Carolina, but especially here at Clemson. The Calhoun Honors College was named for him, and many people have signed a petition to rename the Honors College due to Calhoun's past. In an article in the Greenville News, students state, "The brand of the Calhoun name is one that many honor students leave off their resumes and email signatures since they take it to be poorly reflective of the institution. They've already been using Clemson Honors College, which conveys all that it must." With the movement put into place by students to partially change the name of the Honors College they attend, Clemson as a university should recognize this discussion and brainstorm ways in which they could improve. Overall, Calhoun is a prominent figure in history whose values do not represent the present values of Clemson. Therefore, the university should take into consideration the idea of changing the name of the Honors College after someone whose values do not align with Clemson's present values, which have been provided to them through the movement. The history that has been covered up has sparked movements and research across Clemson's campus. Dr. Rhonda Thomas, an English professor at Clemson, has started to conduct extensive research about the lives of African Americans who lived and worked at Clemson. Her project is titled Call My Name. Two movements that have occurred are the Sykes Sit-In and See the Stripes. The Sykes Sit-In occurred for 9 days, and the members sat on the stone steps of Sykes Hall to advocate for more minority groups, more education on the background of historic buildings, and educating faculty on dealing with diverse groups on campus. The next movement sparked due to the Sykes Sit-In, and it started on social media. This movement was called See the Stripes.